Midway USA has an extensive selection of bullets, providing top-notch performance and accuracy for the cartridge you plan on reloading. If you plan to hunt, shoot competitively, plink at the range, or even load up some self-defense rounds, Midway USA has the popular brands, calibers, diameters, and grain weights of bullets you are searching for. First-time reloaders, bulk bullet buyers, and seasoned specialty shooters begin their search for bullets at Midway USA. For just about everything for reloading, shop MidwayUSA.com.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.
You just be sitting up there jacked with Pepsi.
I'm there for the pack out. You just got to pack me in.
Committed to the bow early on. Like, I love getting close and putting up.
You cover a range of stuff on here too, right? Like,
we call this the THP World Headquarters.
You know, my grandpa Roy Weatherby.
I came into like that golden little pocket where there was like 4 or 5 different bulls. Just
You're Canadian? We're doing a Canadian podcast.
My name's Douglas Bode.
I'm Robbie Denning.
Roy Candy.
Yeah, we'll get into all that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, hard week of training though. I've been away a lot and then just training hard, and yeah, I'm feeling tired. I'm not 19 anymore.
No, nor any of us are.
Yeah.
How are those shows? You went to what? You did the
I was down at Western Hunt Expo.
You went to that, eh? How was that?
Dude, that's it was awesome. Like, it was really cool. It was the first time I've been down like selling hunts. I was working for Band Storack there for Arcadia Outfitting in Iron North, so get to represent that brand, which was awesome. Right next to Arctic Red, which is obviously a bit of a history there, getting married there this past year. So it was cool, like from that perspective, talking to people about like their dream hunts. Like, there's some guys who, I want to come up again. It's my 8th time in the North or whatever. And you're like, okay, like very cool. And then other guys like, okay, I want to book this moose hunt. This is like my dream. I've been saving. I'm going to book it 2026. It's like a huge deal for them, to go to the Yukon. They're like, I want to see big moose, see big country. And they're from somewhere in the, United States. And they're just like, their mind is already blown and they haven't even set foot up there. That was like a really cool experience, I think. And then just hanging out with the Western Hunter guys, Wilderness Athlete, because I've been writing for the Western Hunter mag. So get to meet them in person finally, which was fun. But I will say, man, it is an overwhelming show. There on Saturday alone, I heard there was 78,000 people through the door.
Wow.
Like, it's like complete organized chaos. Like, it's done amazing. I mean, if you walk from where the Arcadia booth was, which is kind of close to where call the front of the show, to the back where close the Western Hunter booth was kind of, and the Wilderness Athlete booth was almost at the back, you were probably at like a good pace walk for 10 minutes. Like, it'd be like going from your house to like damn near Railside Brewing. Like, that's how big the convention center is.
Wow.
Like, it's like,
so what are they holding in? Is it in like an arena style?
No, man, it's just
Stadium?
like the convention center, but because Salt Lake City is just like Salt Lake City is an interesting place, right? Like, the blocks are huge. It's just all perfectly flat, and then you've got these like big mountains on either side of you. It's kind of it's a cool place, man. It's a cool place, but it's got some weird rules because of the religion down there. It's got some weird stuff still, but overall, it's like it's a really cool spot. And but like I said, like, I couldn't imagine being like one of the Kuyu guys, like working the booth there, because you had at any one time, it seemed like you'd walk past the Kuyu booth and there'd be like 300 people yanking jackets off the shelf and like asking questions, just like you're beating them away one out. And every booth was the same, like Stone Glacier and Sitka and everything, right? It seemed like everything was just pure mayhem. But it was like cool to see that the hunting community is like very much alive and well, because I sometimes think in our kind of tiny little corner of the planet over here, even though our game is unbelievable, you feel like you're sometimes maybe like a little bit alone in the mountain hunting community. There's just a small amount of us. And then you get to the States and it's like at this one show alone, there's, over 100,000 people probably through the door on if you combine Thursday to Sunday. For sure, there's over 100,000 people. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
cool.
insane. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I have all the guys I know from down there. They're like, "You coming to the expo?" And I'm like, no, no, I'm not going down there."
My like my best bit of advice would be like, if you wanted to go Thursday, Friday, because it's like way more normal and you get to see that it's the same stuff, it's the same experience. But when it gets that Saturday or Friday night, Saturday, and even Sunday morning a bit, but Saturday is completely crazy. It's cool to see, like it's cool to be a part of, but you're walking through and it's like full blown anxiety the whole way through.
Yeah. So when did Ben go down and set up? Because I imagine you guys got to get in there early. So that thing runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days.
That's right. Yeah. The nice thing is Ben has his stuff down there with a couple of with some like people that he's that have hunted with him before. So he gets to keep basically like most of his booth down there. So he can just show he can go down on the Thursday and set up, and it's pretty good.
How many years has he been going down there?
God, I don't know. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I would say as long as he's had Arcadia for sure, but I know he's been down there because the owner Don Pay not the owner, the like guy who started that thing, Don Pay, has some ties to like Arctic Red, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I think there's been like Ben's been down with Arctic Red for years, and then when Ben bought Arcadia, he was going down, and then obviously now Ben with buying the Iron North outfit there in the Yukon, it's like that'll be a staple for years to come. You got some badass hunters, man. A lot of people rolling in like backpack style, like I want to get after it kind of style hunters for sure. Not just like I want a canned hunt, I'm not going to speak ill of anyone, but it's definitely seems like they're a pretty fit crew that kind of come to that show, which is sweet.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So went from there to the Penticton show, which was like super cool.
Little bit like
a little bit smaller,
big,
little bit smaller,
yeah,
but a little bit smaller, but I'd say like a lot more responsibility. So it was like, I hosted that run in the park on the Thursday, and then
how was it?
Dude, it was awesome. I know we were talking about it a little bit, and I was trying to give you a little grief for not coming, but dude, it was hard, man. The first like 3K of it was in shin deep, like heavy wet snow. Like it was like tough. And then when I kind of got back to so we did like a 6-ish K out and then 6K back, and 6K out, 6K back. So you ran the first 3K out in snow, and then you're hit more trail. We just went along the Wild Horse Canyon Trail, and then on the way back, you kind of do that 3K of trail again, and then you hit like kind of 3K of snow to finish. And it was brutal. Like it was like really, really hard to finish. People came across the line and they were like, man, that was like pretty tough. Like it wasn't like a road run where you're like intensity is super high. It felt more like a hard ruck. Like if you were like, man, that was like a hard weighted ruck. My legs are like kind of spent. So it was great. I wanted above 5 people and under 20 for this first year, and we had 10, so it was perfect. And then so that was the kickoff on the Thursday there, and then that's going to be on the Friday next year actually, and we're going to do like a ruck style event, same place, but it'll be Friday morning at 8 a.m. And so my plan is to between 30 and 50 people is my goal, and then so we'll cap it at 50, but I'd like to see at least 30 out Friday morning. And we'll go out light, maybe 15 or 20 pounds. And then I'm going to have some prearranged weights out there. And then you're going to grab the corresponding one, chuck it in your pack. And then you're going to come back with like another 40 pounds. So it'll be like out with 20, back with 60 or something along those lines. Kind of like a hunt style, which would be cool. And then because it's not running, like some people kind of shy away from running, but I think everybody will be pretty down with some rucking. So get some packs, get some pack sponsors and stuff. And then we'll go from there. So I think I'm already planning for next year, which is like, I think how you really make these events last
Yeah.
and be good is you got to like right as soon as it's done, you take like a weekend off and you're like, okay, I'm already thinking of next year. How can I make it better? So
Yeah,
that's the
I
idea.
think you're right there. I think you gotta get like right after it right away. I know like the BC Interior Sportsman Show, they reached out to me a couple weeks ago and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing? I asked you to join us there." And
Yeah.
it was like, "Well, you're just organizing like speakers now." And it's like, man,
Yeah,
like luckily like I'm in town, it's easy enough, right? And it's hosted here in Kelowna, but like you should be booking these people like in the summertime if you want like,
for sure.
like if you want to make it an event that's going to attract bigger, like the bigger names or the bigger speakers, you got to
Yeah,
get after it earlier. You can't wait till February and to be like, hey, you want to come talk in April? It's like, well, yeah, it's,
totally. Because if you bring in like because the city will always get on board for that kind of stuff. If you're bringing, even imagine like the Penticton show, like we had, I think like 600 people on Friday and then 700 people or so on the Saturday,
wow,
not to mention the
that's
amount of
good.
people that came out. So you're thinking like, well, those people you're bringing, just call it 1,000 people to the city of Penticton who are
Hmm.
staying in hotels, Airbnbs, going out to restaurants. You're bringing money into an economy of a city that's super sleepy in that time of year, right? And like obviously it's no shock that like tourism in Kelowna is like a major driving force, and with the amount of fires that we usually end up having seemingly have in like August and whatnot, that really hurts tourism. So like if you want to build an event and make it bigger, you got to get on it like a year in advance to make sure enough people can come out, and the city will for sure be behind you on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
especially if it's
agree.
an
Yeah,
outdoor
that's
show.
what I told him. I'm like, and Kelowna's pretty central and it'd be a good place to host it as well. And I'm like, you need to start working this now. And I'm like, I can help you if you need, but like you should be asking people
Yeah,
like way in advance. You should be asking people now for next year, not,
100%. Yeah.
not it's
Yeah.
4 months in advance.
Yeah, I
But you
remember.
went to Alberta too, didn't you?
Yeah, so so then Penticton finished up, and then so yeah, did the Rock, did a whiskey night on the Thursday. That was really fun with Tyler Dyke from Okanagan Spirits, and we released the new Steeples range whiskey, which is pretty cool. You can get that at Okanagan Spirits, and it just supports Wild Sheep. It's actually pretty cool. We do a cask every year, and then the amount of bottles that get sold, like as soon as the cask is done, we end up making a pretty tidy profit actually on
Nice.
and the profit goes, everything I should say goes towards Wild Sheep. It's not like somebody's making any money off this. So it's pretty cool. So we did that on the Thursday night, and then Friday, Saturday, we just had full vendor city, man. We had like 55, there were 42 total vendors or 55 total vendors at the expo, which is sick. We had every brand like that, a lot of, not every brand, but a lot of brands that people wear. Stone Glacier, Sitka, Kuyu. We had like a bunch of different things. Obviously, my booth, the coffee thing going on, Omer Precision Optics, like tons of stuff you could look at. Schnee's boots you could try on, Crispy boots you could try on. Yeah, man, it was just like finally what I think the people of British Columbia deserve in an expo. So plan
Yeah.
accordingly for next year and show up early if you guys are if the listeners are super interested, because you can literally like you can do your full vendor village there, and I think the door prize like the door price to come to that was just $10. So, and again, everything goes to conservation, right? So it's an easy one to do. So
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
was Friday. Saturday auction normal, like the dinners, that was great. And then yeah, the next week, like on the Friday, I left super early in the morning to drive to Wild Sheep Foundation, Alberta. I had to pick up more of the coffee and then the final packaging of my coffee, the new company, and then freaking yeah, and then a Friday night social for WSF Alberta at the airport there at the Westin, and then the Saturday show, and then the Saturday night. So it was full on, man. It was and then back Sunday, and I won't lie to you, the drive there and the drive back were not like overly pleasant. They were
No,
the
didn't you
drive there,
wasn't there like a big accident outside of Revelstoke or something?
dude, man. There was multiple accidents, like highway closures. It was gnarly, man. And there was a 20-car accident in Canmore. Like it was a
Oh my
full
God.
blizzard. I was like driving there. I'm like, I am driving and risking my life essentially to pick up coffee for the good people of the backcountry and to see a few friends in Alberta. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. So,
No
anyways,
doubt.
it was
Well,
something.
let's talk a little bit about what you got going on, your new venture, and then we'll get
Yeah,
into some fitness stuff because I know
let's do it.
there's a lot of people that they were wanting you to come back on the show because you're full of great information, especially like the rehab stuff right now.
Yeah.
The thing about rehab is like that's ongoing year round. If you're like
Yeah.
me anyway, it just like never seems just like a revolving door. It's always one fucking thing.
Yep. Yep.
And you never really know when an injury is gonna just
Right.
pop up. So like
Right.
prevention is what I'm finding, prevention is huge. Not just
Oh yeah.
not just dealing with it when it comes, but
Yeah.
making it so, you're resistant to injury.
Yeah. I
But
mean, let's talk about
let's talk about your coffee thing first.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, for years I've been kind of no pun intended percolating this idea of like how to get better instant coffee because it's all pretty shitty. Like I don't think Starbucks has good coffee and they're a giant conglomeration that I don't think treats people that well, but that's a different kind of story. And then I would uh I would say that the process in which I end up figuring out that like freeze dried coffee is made, it's just a micro ground like you take the whole bean, micro grind that down and then freeze dry it and then that dissolves into the coffee into the water and then that's what really brings out like that's what has that acidic and bitter taste. So as I was kind of learning about this, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. So I kind of hooked up with a friend of mine from town. He's been in coffee for a lot of years. He's like, yeah, I don't know if there is. And then so we were doing a little digging and found this cool company that's like a startup in just south of Calgary. And he's like this mad scientist I met on the weekend. And he's got this really cool proprietary extraction freeze drying process. And so we brought a really high quality bean, freshly roasted to him. And we kind of did a couple options. And then this one that we got back was an absolute winner. Like it was literally like you just had a freshly ground, like a freshly roasted, perfectly rested, fresh ground bean and like through into the pour over, like grind the bean and then into the pour over and into your cup. Like that was the level of coffee that felt like I was drinking from instant coffee. And I said, oh, well, I'm super biased. I've got to be full of shit. And then, so I sent it out to a bunch of different buddies. And I'm like, I don't want, like, if I'm going to sink any money into this, like, please don't be a yes man. Really hammer me if it's not good and tell me how it can be better. And maybe we can figure something out. And all the boys came back and they were like, one guy was like, Tanner from Frontiersman was like, I was like, brought this coffee on this trip and I was going to curse you so hard if it was bad because it's almost the only coffee I brought. And then he like opened it up and he was like, this can't be right. Like WARDO can't have come up with the solution to good coffee. Like how the hell has no one else done this? And anyway, so I feel like we just kind of like, struck gold a little bit. Just everything was right. So we came up with this company, wanted to keep it simple. The company's name is This Is Coffee. You can find it thisiscoffee.ca on Instagram or just email. And it's definitely
I'll put
more
all the links
expensive.
up in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. So it's more money than I wish I could make it cheaper. Let's say that, but I'm certainly not making a lot of money per pouch. It's $4 a cup, which is kind of what you pay at the store. I wish I could
like a Tim Hortons coffee now. It's like
it's a Tim Hortons
average.
coffee.
Yeah,
it's like
I think
average,
like a high, like just a regular Starbucks coffee. I think it's like $7 or $8. I don't know.
It's expensive, right? So, and this is coffee you could drink black. It's really good. So, anyways, yeah, that's kind of this thing. And then there's been more and more applications of it. Like I was flying down to Salt Lake City, and like the worst coffee in the world's pretty much on airplanes. And I was like, lady's like, oh, coffee, juice, tea, and I was almost just gonna say nothing because I had water with me. And I was like, I think it's a little too early for a whiskey. So I was like, well, I was like, oh, wait, could I just get some hot water? And I opened up one of these coffee packs and poured it in there. And the guy next to me is like, hey, what do you got there? And he's like, that smells pretty good. And I'm like, oh man, and I had the label on my coffee cup. And I said, oh, it's this coffee company that I've been using for instant coffee. He's like, oh, let me have a see. So he's on the Wi-Fi and he like does the QR code and he looks at it. He's like, oh, this is pretty sweet. He's like, I'm going to try some. So he literally orders it right there. And I was like, oh, nice. And then he's like looking through the Instagram. He's like, is this you? And I was like, yeah, it's me. And he's like, that's pretty sneaky, man. I'm like, honestly, it's not my marketing plan just to fly around the country and I'm not going to make any money. But
that's tough on the budget, just flying around.
I don't got that jet money. I'll tell you that. So anyways, so that was just kind of a funny one that I was like, man, I didn't even think about that. So taking it. And then other buddies of mine are like, dude, I was driving to somewhere and I had to stop and pull over, and I needed a coffee and I didn't want the Canco gas station coffee for the, sixth time. They're like, dude, I've got the packets in the truck. Open one up and I've got a couple guys cursing me. They're like, man, this is better than what I drink at home right now. Like, I'm like gonna have to buy more. I'm like, yeah, man, we're stocked up. So just you let me know.
Oh,
So
that's good, man. That's
it's
awesome.
cool,
Yeah,
dude.
like I have like you got to go with instant coffee in your backpack. Like there's just no other way to grab those stupid
No,
little percolators and all that other shit. It's just garbage. You've tried
no,
that. Like it's got to be instant coffee, and like instant coffee is not great. Do you know what I
it's
mean?
bad.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But we
you
all
get
stomach
some.
it.
Yeah, you just deal with it because like, hey, you're it's part of the package. What
That's
is
right.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
But
Freeze
man,
dried
if you could,
meals,
if like
like,
we talked about this before, like I remember talking with Mark Livesey about like he was talking about freeze dried stuff and like fruit
yep,
and stuff, and like if you could get some like when you're out for 3 4 days 5 days and then you get into those longer trips like 7 8 9 days, and if you like you'd cut off your left nut for a good
100%.
tasty fucking coffee.
Oh man, it's unbelievable what like you think about it too, and you're sitting there and you're, overlooking some mule deer country up in the Alpine, or you're on day 9 out in the backcountry, or like maybe you're a hunting guide and you're literally on day like 98
Yeah.
out in nowhere, and you've like literally been drinking Folgers cowboy coffee the whole time. Like just to have, maybe you're not going to drink your whole season with this stuff, but like to have some packets stored away to be like, this morning deserves a nice coffee, or like I always think about because a lot of the time, like the thing that I crave sometimes the most is like fresh veggies. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, can't wait to get back to the Boston Pizza in Fort Nelson after sheep hunting and have a salad, which is like not something that crosses my mind very often. You know what I mean?
No.
You're just
Well, and that's what I was
want
saying. Like
quality.
the even like fruit, like to have
Yeah.
a fresh peach or like an apple after
Oh,
like day 7 or 8. If you're on the side hill
oh,
and like you'd just be the best. Like
the
you
best.
savor those little things. So if you can get like a really good cup of coffee, like you know what it's like when you get back and you have like a
Yes.
cup of home coffee, you're like, oh man, I've been craving this for
You're
12
like,
days.
this is so nice. You're like, what was
Yeah.
that swill I was drinking? And even some of the guys too, like when I was down at the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City, guys are like, dude, I'm going to actually take this into the backcountry because Ben Britton from Wilderness Athletes, like, I've stopped. He's like, I've stopped taking any coffee into the backcountry because it's just bad. Like, it's
Horrible.
it's
I know.
bad. It hurts my stomach. And I'm like, why am I? It's like a toxic relationship. You're like, why do I
Yeah.
stay in this relationship?
Some of this
So,
stuff's like fucking battery acid, man. Like you
oh,
drink it and you're like,
dude,
oh my God, I
like
shouldn't have drank that. But then you do it again the next morning. You're like, man, do I keep
100%. Yeah.
suffering?
Or you're like kind of bored
It's
and
an
it's like a little
addiction.
chilly out. Yeah. It's just like the dumbest thing ever. But like, I mean, I think I drank like 200, north of 200 packs of Via Starbucks coffee last year. Can't believe I don't have
Oh
an
yeah.
ulcer. Like,
Well, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I love coffee. Like, I
I
love
love
a
it.
really good tasting coffee. And like, I cut my coffee back a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I used to drink a lot of coffee, and
Yeah.
I've tapered it down to just 2 cups a day.
Yeah. Nice.
But I mean, yeah, I love a good cup of coffee. And if you can have a good cup of coffee on like on in your backpack,
Oh,
man, it's
man.
just like
It's
it's worth it. It's worth
nice.
the $4. Definitely
It's
worth
worth
the
it.
$4. Yeah.
For sure. Like it's like anything craft, right? Like it's and and I do think about it. If you want to buy 150 for the season, I'm thrilled for that, right? Because it's
Yeah.
obviously my company. But realistically, like I could see this as like, all right, I've got my like shitty like Via packs from whatever company, and well, then I've got my 20 or 30 this is coffee packs that I'm gonna savor those. Like I'm gonna have those when I really want it. And I'm like, I feel like that's realistic. And then obviously if guys are like, no, I want to budget and spend it, I'm absolutely thrilled about it. And that's just my honest opinion on
Yeah, I mean, and
on
the
I think
nice thing
what it
about
can
your
be.
packages is they're those flat packages. Like you buy the if you
Dude,
go
they're
to like
tiny.
MEC or something, you buy the pre-made coffee packages. Fuck man, they're in like these shitty little paper things, and like
Yeah.
half the time, like I put all my stuff like I'm in my backpack. Everything's got to be in like its own individual
Oh yeah.
Ziploc bag because I'm anal
Yeah.
about anything breaking open. But
Yeah.
like by the end of it, you look at your coffee bag, and like half of them are ripped open. So like now you're trying to filter coffee into it. Like it's just it's a bad
Dude.
setup.
And also like the number one enemy of anything freeze dried is moisture. So
Yeah.
like our packets are like these are the new like custom packets.
Uh-huh.
They're like I've submerged it in water for a night and it's been fine. So
Yeah. See, look how small that is. That's what I mean. Like you could throw 10 of those in there. It's like basically you took a piece of paper and cut it. You
it's
know what it's
nothing.
like?
Like
It's like nothing.
it's literally nothing. That's 9 right there. Like
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
nothing.
There you go,
Yeah, it's
9 days.
pretty. Yeah, it's pretty slick, So, anyways, and you know what's really fun, man? Because like obviously I deal in the world of like healthcare and rehab and strength and conditioning, and it's like you're always selling a service. Selling a product has been really fun. Like
Yeah.
it's like also like it's like coffee's like a drug too. People are like,
Mhm.
yeah, man, give me some of that coffee. I feel like I'm a
Oh yeah.
schoolyard drug dealer, Like it's
No,
like
it is, man. It's
it's
addicting and
fun.
it's yeah, but it's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I love
I've been
coffee.
I've been really enjoying it. I've been really, really
Yeah,
enjoying it, man.
that's good. And
I
it's your
like,
baby too, right? Like something that you
yeah,
do and you make and you produce and you put, all this passion into.
yeah,
It gets really fun when you're doing that kind of stuff. So that's good,
for
buddy.
sure. For sure. Yeah, exactly. And I honestly like I mean, I think you know me well enough now, right? Like I'm not gonna do any I'm terrible if I don't believe in the product, like
Hmm.
I'm not good. Like I'm like, yeah, it's like okay, like there's some other options out there,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
try it, but
yeah.
then it's like you're not going to see it again.
No.
It's like anything.
No.
It's like some gear. Oh yeah, sure,
Yeah.
I'll try it. And then it's like you try it, and
Uh,
it's like okay.
Thanks. It's like then it quickly goes on Facebook Marketplace and like it's like
Yeah.
I've got both my I'm selling both my well, I've sold one, but I'm selling my dialed archery sites.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's just like I'm just like, man, they just the marketing was too good, but they're just they just don't feel like they're built for BC. Mine just kind of
No.
wiggle around too much. So
Yeah, I think they're really good for like the guys that do like tax and stuff like that.
perfect. Yeah.
Like
And they've got
deadlift.
like that rail, which like,
Mhm.
you can shoot 130 yards with it. I'm like, well, I'm never shooting 130 yards. So
Yeah,
like
and I think
whatever.
that's where they really perform well is
Shine.
like at
Yeah.
those at
I,
those tack events and stuff like that. But
totally.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean you got to have durability in the backcountry,
Yeah.
especially
Y-
like all the shit we go through here in BC. My
Dude.
like my scope my I use the spot hogs like and I use them for a reason because they're like they got no fancy features
Yeah.
and you can like drive over those things. And
Yeah.
if there's any problem, you send it to them, and if they can't fix it, they'll send you a brand new one. Like they're just
Yeah.
like money.
Absolutely. I'm like constantly like too, like I'm like busting brush with my bow. I think we've talked
Mhm.
about that before.
Yeah.
I'm like constantly using it as like a tool and the
Oh
thing's
yeah.
just like absolutely steadfast, perfect. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
need to be nervous about this thing. Bow hunting's hard enough. So
No, yeah, and I'm the same way when I'm going through the bush, breaking through that alder and shit. I'm going bow first, and it's like terrible. Like you shouldn't be doing it. And the same, like walking uphill, it's like I
yeah,
got that long stabilizer, and I'm just like digging into it. It looks like a little worn out nub by the end of the year, but it's like, hey man, it's part of the game, right?
part of the game, man. Part of the game. If it can hold up to your tests, it can hold up to pretty much anything, right? So
Yeah.
that's about it.
So
Yeah,
let's
nice.
talk a little bit about training, about
Yeah,
fitness, recovery and stuff, and um like just what like what I'd
I've
like
got
to
to.
talk to you about is I
Yeah,
want to build for myself anyway. We can kind of I don't know how we can work this into a conversation for everybody, but like what I want to build is I need a program for my legs,
yeah,
like my lower body
yeah,
that build like it's good for running,
yeah,
building muscle,
yeah,
and preventing injury. And like I really
yeah,
struggle with like the preventing injury stuff because it's like you go to the old faithful like squats, leg
yeah,
press, stuff like that, like for building leg strength. And then
yeah,
I kind of like I totally always get away from like everything else because I get so fixated on like I got bad knees
yeah,
and I have like I my legs need to be stronger. Like I know my legs need to be stronger. It's from years of like standing on my feet, like laying bricks is like all upper body. It's just like
totally.
standing in one spot, laying bricks, right?
Well,
All
and you had like
shoulders.
7 years of or whatever of a knee injury that needed surgery essentially,
Yeah.
right? So and it didn't happen. So then training them hurt. So why would you keep training them every time they hurt? Like that's,
Yeah.
like you got to fix that stuff. I think I've got a way I can because I've been thinking about this, just thinking about you, not even to do it on a podcast, but I've just been kind of like thinking about this, like how to word it. And this is one of the things I talk about when I talk about like my hunting and fitness presentation, right? Like this is the exact point of periodizing your year for hunting. And now, not necessarily like because you're going to be doing 14-day hunts, but periodizing your year so your body can take a break. So if we just use it in the terms of the hunting season, just because it's simple and you can kind of you can swing this anywhere.
Yeah.
Basically, once kind of the end of November hits for most of us, most people are kind of, and whitetail hunting is really not that strenuous. But as soon as your kind of big mule deer stuff is done,
Don't tell any whitetail that we fucking that'll be it.
Come on.
There's a lot
I
of them
mean,
too.
you got a sled and you're sitting in a stand. Don't kid yourself. So like once that's done, unless you have like a bison hunt late or something like that, whatever. But for the most part, kind of in that November timeframe, end of November timeframe, that's when your training year should kind of start. And you basically want to take a couple weeks of getting your shit fixed, getting some massage, getting some physio, some chiro, whatever you need to do. And then in that time frame, you're starting to ramp back up to the gym very easy. And you're starting to do the big lifts. You're foam rolling, you're doing the lifts, you're doing some mobility work, all the things that I see you doing. And then you basically want to run that from whatever, call it December, probably through May. And that is your training the gear of strength and zone 2. And that zone 2 cardio is somewhere between 120 and 180 minutes a week, probably for most people 110 to 130 beats a minute. And that could be, if you've just taken a big toll on the season, that can easily just be walking. And it shouldn't be walking with a heavy pack or any of these things. You should be trying to rest some of those things. You imagine your body is like gears, and you want to train a different gear than you've been training all hunting season. So you're on cross-country skis, snowshoes, you're walking, you're on the stationary bike, you're on whatever, right? But you're kind of working on your zone 2 for that strength season. And you can absolutely train zone 2 and strength at the same time and have like you're training 2 different energy systems completely. So there's no problem with recovery as long as you're eating half decently and sleeping half decently. So those are the two big things. And you just have to remember that strength needs to be very linear in its build. And if you're very novice, and here's where I'm going to talk about just in general, and then I'll talk about you in my opinion specifically. So if you're novice and you're just learning the lifts, there's a lot of accommodation phase that's going to happen. You're going to get back into lifting, and you're going to you got to figure things out over that first, 3 to 5 weeks. And then you're going to keep the weights light, grease that groove, as I say. And then you're going to keep ramping up, and it's not going to feel like you're training yet. Like you're really not going to feel like you're doing much, but you're just, yep.
Can we just talk about like percentage wise? So like what should we be doing? Like 10% a week, 25. Like this is where I feel like, okay, like I had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and he was training, and he's like, oh, I felt really good at the gym. And then I was, I can't remember what he said he was squatting before. And then he said he was squatted almost double, and he was fine. And he went home, and the next day he couldn't fucking walk. His knees swelled right up like, well, melons. And then I was like, well, you got to gradually work your way up. You can't just because you feel you've been working out now for 3 months and you're feeling really good. So like, what's a gradual, like, is it 10% a week, 5% a week? And does that change depending on your tolerance to like physical fitness? Because that's different for everybody too. Somebody who just started working out isn't going to have the same their body's not going to have the same tolerance as somebody that's been doing it for years. It just
100%.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So I call that like lifting age. Like if you're me and you've been doing it, I've been doing it for a long time. Like I'm going to know numbers and percentages like pretty well and understand the RPE scale. Percentage for amateur lifters is really a tough, slippery slope. You really want to kind of go on RPE, and that RPE is rate of perceived exertion. And I usually try and use a 0 to 10 method. And if you got in, something that's relatively safe, so you could feel what a true like 10 RPE was. 10 RPE would be like you are going to sprint up a hill, and at the very end before you barf, that is 10. Now, a lot of people with an amateur lifting age and they're more novice, they're not going to know what like a true 1 rep max feels like lifting. And that's fine. But what we should experience is you should have some gauge, and you should keep that gauge always between 5 and 7 as a novice. So a 5 out of 10. And you're going to feel like you're like, I'm not doing shit. And then, as you kind of maybe you add for the lower body, you add 10 pounds a week. But as soon as you start to see this drop or this drop in like form can't change, and speed of the bar probably shouldn't change either. So if you're grinding these reps out and you're just like a tough bastard, and you're like, I don't know, that was like a 6, and you're like, oh man, that looks like it's a 9. There's got to be some stuff. So having a gym partner videoing some stuff, and then trying to just learn. But again, we cannot learn in the first 3 months and think you're good at it. Like you can't. You need to live to lift another year. That's kind of the common idea. So you're not going to be the strongest you're going to be in that first kind of December to May. So if you start out, we can just pick back squatting to start with. Now, if you're starting out and you're 180-pound guy and you have, you lifted in high school and whatever, and you start learning how to squat, I would say I would be box squatting, because there's way less risk involved as we kind of get to about that 90 degree and up. So I'd be box squatting.
For the listeners, we'll just say the names. We won't have to get into all that order. I'll just put up a quick link, then I'll click onto YouTube. Sure. So if anybody wonders what a box squat is, they'll just be able to click it.
Yeah. So like box squat, because there's way less risk involved with going past 90 and not understanding how deep you can go and all those things. So when we're just learning, box squatting is very safe, and we can just keep loading that up. Now, as you load that up, you will get to a point when you're doing 10 pounds a week, when all of a sudden you're like, that is scary hard. And now just say, let's take your work, for example. You had a couple guys calling sick. You're back on the tools and you're doing like a bunch of shit, laying brick, bending down tons. Whatever ended up happening, right? You went for a random pickup football game or hockey game with a buddy and you're kind of sore. Now, the problem with the percentage system is you're maybe going to live and die by that percentage. You're like, well, I kind of got to lift 76% today. You should still stick to that RPE system. Man, my kids were up all night sick. I had to my wife's car broke down. I got these things going on, and the weights maybe feel really heavy that day. Take me, for example. Yesterday was this tempo back squat day, 5 sets of 3, about 3 seconds down. I should be around 335, 340 for that. And I was legitimately 305. I was like, that's a max. I'm done. I'm 35 pounds less because of the last 3 weeks. I've eaten like shit. I've drank too much. I haven't rested. I'm like, I can't live and die by that percentage, because that's where injury starts to come in. So
this is a question I'm going to ask you. Okay. So because you know how the housing market is, everything's slowed down. So I've basically laid off half my staff and I've gone back on the tools. I've been on the tools now probably for almost back on the tools full-time a year, not full-time, but pretty much. But I mean, still we got a block job coming up. I'm laying 200 to 300 block a day, and those block are 35, 40 pounds a piece. Right.
Right.
And then, so my training stays the same.
Right.
Now, should it stay the same or shouldn't it stay the same? Should I be taking that into consideration while I'm building my workout? Because I'm always just like, well, fuck it.
Yes.
Just go.
You have to. Now, so let's answer this now, and then I'll keep going on kind of how you periodize your year.
Yeah.
So the interesting conundrum that is Kevin Toy is your upper body is a veteran of training and can withstand a good shit kicking. Yeah. You can lay more block, and you can, because you've been lifting, doing upper body, you have great form, push-ups, shoulder press, blah, 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 for how many years, right?
Yeah.
Core work, everything's good up there. But your lower half it's super novice on the lifting age.
Yeah.
And so you've got to almost take into account the fact that your lower body does not doesn't, it can't be trained to the same.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be relied upon the same as your push-ups. Like it just
Yeah.
can't, you know?
Well, yeah, for sure. And that's what I've learned over the years. And that's why, like, when you look at with help from you and like our friend Corey and stuff, and like
Yep.
this, my lower body between like my hip and my knees and like ankles and like, but that's from like I fell off the roof 2 weeks ago, fucked my knee up,
Oh
right? And
no.
like
Oh yeah.
just
Jesus.
shit like that,
Shit
right?
that
But that's
happens.
yeah, and like it's just constant wear and tear. But I've been doing shit like that my entire life, like just
40.
hard.
Yeah. For 40 years. Yeah. You know,
Yeah. So,
so
but I've been learning with you guys' help and talking to you guys, and it is like, yeah, I can't train. Like I train my upper body. I train it twice a week, and I kick the shit out of it, and it doesn't bug me. Right at my shoulder,
no,
like everything's
plus you're
strong
on the
and fine.
tools constantly.
Yeah.
So like, plus
Mhm.
you're pulling your bow back, which is some form of training, right? Like, especially when you shoot a good amount. So
Yeah.
there's just lots to it. So you have an interesting split, whereas like you have to take this lower half and you have
Mhm.
to really dial like, and I say this to everybody, and it's not that I think you have one, but you got to check the ego at the door and be like, damn, I got to use safe options. So I should be trap bar deadlifting, kickstand deadlifting, things that are really easy and they're hard to mess up and they can kind of gradually load up quite safely
Mhm.
versus like now I'm RDLing with the barbell. I'm doing all these not higher risk, but there is higher consequence if the form isn't perfect. And
Yeah.
because your upper body and your brain and you know what a training effect feels like. And you're like, I want that training effect to feel, I want a training effect.
Mhm.
And you're working your legs out and you're like, this is not a training effect because
Yeah,
you're used to it.
Yeah, that was the hardest part for me. And obviously I've definitely learned the hard way of where your limits are in training and like but yeah, like form is huge and like I've learned that and like with your help and Corey's help and just everybody else, I've got other friends and people online that have been helping me as well. And it's like we were talking about earlier, like it's funny, like my son is into weightlifting now and like lifting weights, messing around with the
Awesome.
weights, and it's like he's grabbing the 20s and he's just swinging. I'm like, dude, go down and grab the 5s, and your arms are gonna get the same burn they're gonna get a better burn than you will with those 20s. And he's like, why? I'm like, okay, stand here, bend your knees, crouch down, back straight, and then I want you to focus on that negative control coming down. And he's like, forward. He's like, oh my god. He's like, that's way harder. I'm like, you don't need that high weight to get the same results. And it's like you said, it's all about form, and that's one of the things like building my leg program now and like working with a running coach is like we're building stuff like using the RPE scale and building like a strength training, mobility training, but it's like it's not like it's very simple. It's very like it's shitty, right? It sucks. It's not like it's not you're not lifting heavy weights, but you're just going through you're getting the same like when I work out, when I train my legs, I feel like I'm getting a good burn, right? But the nice thing is now nothing hurts. Like my knees don't hurt, my hip doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
And then it's just, and that's all I care about. I don't, at this point in my life, I don't really care. Like, same thing. Like, I can bench 300 pounds. I don't, because then if if I bench press too heavy, my fucking shoulders or elbows or something hurts, right? And then I can't work.
But you're also like, you don't train to bench heavy.
No,
like,
exactly.
You need, there is a lot of, then this is why periodizing your year. So to talk about strength training is less than 5 reps. It's 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 5 sets. That's what it is. That's strength training. If you feel any burn, that's not strength training. So that's hypertrophy training. So that's a very hard thing to wrap your mind, that for people to wrap their mind around, is that like, I'm not going to feel anything when you're truly working some strength profiles. Now, how you kind of get around
a lot of people get that mixed up is like strength training and like, because there's so many, when you're lifting weights, especially, there's so many variables. Like, are you bodybuilding? Are you strength training? Are you training just to train?
Right.
Like,
and
like
this is
when
where
I train, I train to be like myself. I train to be in better shape. I train to look better, and I feel better. Like if I don't train, mentally it drives me fucking bonkers. But I just like, I just feel better all around. If I'm, I do my stretches, I do my workout twice, I work out every body part twice a week. I feel better mentally. And they used to be really like long and intense where they're like every workout for like chest would be like 16 to 24 sets, and now it's like 12. And I get
Yeah.
the
And it's
same
just
results now that I was
totally.
before. It's just my training for the upper body has changed, and I think that was a big thing, before your guys' help was like the lower body. I was just doing what I was doing before with the upper body, and I was just
Right.
like hitting it hard. It was like, well, it's got to catch up to the upper
Got to
half.
catch up to the rest of me. Yeah.
We got
And it
to
just
get
doesn't
going.
work that way.
Yeah.
So like, and that's part of the interesting thing too, right? Is then you start to train and you kind of get in locked in and you're like, yeah, like I'm really comfortable with 50-pound dumbbells. I do, 5 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. That's what I do all the time. You're like, oh, well, that's one gear of training that muscle.
Mhm.
You're like, really what you should be looking at is like, I'm going to do now in this periodized set between December and May, or April, May, whatever, but I call it May, is you should be looking at, and this is truly how I would work it, is I'm going to do, it could be dumbbell bench press, it could be barbell bench press, it could be incline, doesn't matter. It could be a machine, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to do 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps, starting at a low weight, and it's going to increase, and that's what's going to be my strength portion of the workout. And now that's for you in April, that's 275, 3 sets, 3 reps. You will have slowly built up to that. But then in your accessory work, you are then going to choose something that's maybe 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. And there's your more hypertrophy style training. And that's how a lot of people will work that strength and accessory into like your true strength work needs to be true strength work. You cannot fudge that. That just physiologically, it doesn't work. And then your second piece of that can be the accessory work. Now, that's the important part. Until May, you're doing that combo in conjunction with your zone 2 training. And that is just 120 to 180 minutes a week, zone 2, 110 to 130 roughly in the heart rate, depending on age and fitness and whatever. That's how you work that. And then whatever you achieve in May, you are then done. And that part of your training is stamped, and you will then restart that training next December. It is now time to train a different fucking gear. Otherwise, you are just a transmission with 6 speeds, then you train that third gear nonstop. Do you think that third gear is going to fucking wear out? Of course it's going to wear out.
Mhm.
You haven't even touched first, second, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So this is where having variation and variation in your training creates a more robust, we call it general physical preparedness, that allows you over years to then do a game of pickup football, swing a golf club, go to a specialized for a powerlifting competition and still hunt and still have injuries and or still be way more injury resilient because you're like a multimodal, like mixed athlete. You're not just, I do these 6 exercises, these amount of reps, and that's what I've done forever. It might look fine, but it really when you dig into it, it's just, you're kind of like a specialist, an inch wide and a mile deep. And really what we want to be is half a mile wide and half a mile deep.
Yeah. And it depends on time you're training, dude, too. Like you hit plateaus, and like, if you don't switch things up, you're just going to be, you're going to be stuck at like doing 50 pounds, and you're only going to get 10 every time you do hit 10. It's like, oh, I'm done. And
I'm
same
done
with like running, right? If you're just running if you're running at like a 5 RPE for half an hour each time you do it, it's like, well, that's where you're not going to gain strength. You're not going to gain durability in those joints and stuff. Like you're just going to be running
your body
down the same
needs
road.
it.
Yeah.
Physiologically, you need the change. Now, come May I use everything kind of based around the sheep season. So come May to pretty much like the end of June, you are then, I timestamp all that strength. And that strength stuff, then all I do is try and look at roughly 2 to 4 sets of 2 to 4 reps at 80% of whatever my heaviest lift does or was at the end of the first block of training. And then the second form of my training, I'm now going to start to do some more interval work, some steady state work, either with the pack or running or on my road bike, whatever mode of like, we're now going to start to push that lactate threshold a little bit. And then as far as workouts in the gym, now is when you can kind of spice in, if you want to call them CrossFit style workouts, but they're just high intensity training workouts. You can also bury that in there too with movements that you've done all year in your accessories. So you can kind of go weightlifting cardio or just general cardio. And that's what you do in that amount of time. And again, maybe you're now really kind of focusing on rucking, or you're kind of adding some weight into the pack consistently, and you get ready for kind of whatever sheep shape or elk shape or whatever you want to call it. And then that's just whether you're kind of carrying or you're just like a legitimate, like, I barely hunt. I kind of just go off the truck. I hunt I hike some cuts. That's fine. But I still think setting your year up for something like this is pretty appropriate. Strength and zone 2 in the winter, coming into summer, more hypertrophy, more higher intensity. You can call that kind of your cutting season, and you should gain a little bit of, you'll kind of like cut down a little bit and gain some, and you'll like look better. And then really come that throughout the hunting season, August, September, October, and maybe into November, you're just maintenance mode. So you got to kind of pick and choose whatever. If you're really good at lifting weights, then maybe you want to focus on your cardio. If you're really good at cardio and you're like a good runner, a good hiker, and you're like not very good at lifting weights, I would not lose that groove that you greased for the previous like 8 months. Then when you start again, whatever you pick, whatever's like feels like a 5 out of 10 on the RPE is probably, hopefully, is going to be a decent amount more than your novice lifter did the year before. And then now you rinse and repeat December to May. You're a little stronger again. Boom. Like you change the training up. Then the next year, so we got to start thinking in these, like, call them Olympic quads. I start thinking in these 4-year cycles versus like, well, fuck, Matt's stronger than me. I've never lifted before. I'm going to try and be stronger than him in 3 months. Maybe you can be like, for sure. It's not that I'm that strong, but it's like, it's ridiculous. It also, like, if you're over 35 years old and you have a family and a job, like, your recovery is probably a bigger concern than anything else than your training. And I think you feel that for sure. Right.
Well, and like that's the biggest thing. Well, I mean, recovery. Yeah. And like, that's why I switched my workouts to being like shorter, like higher intensity, shorter, and doing them like twice a day.
Yep.
Because rather than getting up at start working at 4, start my workout at 4 a.m. and work out till like 6:30 and then go to work at 7.
Yep.
My sleep, and that was one of the things I learned through my hip injury last year, was like, I fought it and just was doing stuff, everything I could.
Yep.
And then I wasn't sleeping properly. And then like I was getting nowhere with the recovery. And then all of a sudden, like, you start smartening up and like, okay, well, I got to get some more sleep here. And then I actually switched my whole workout. So I was sleeping till 6 a.m, sleeping in, and then, getting 8 hours of sleep a night. And all of a sudden my recovery was like snap of the fingers. And that's what I've learned is, so now, I get up at 5 o'clock and I'm not working out at 4 a.m. Before I'd be getting up at 3:15 and working out, and then, 9:30 going to bed. It's like your body, it didn't feel like I didn't feel wore down. Like, but a lot of the thing is too, is like, I think a lot of it has to do with mentally. Cause if I get tired or if I'm exhausted, I'm just like, well, fucking suck it up. And then I just like flip my head just gets out of that. But the problem is my body still gets the wear and tear. And I've learned.
And what do you feel like most of the time? And like, man, I'm bad for this. You're bad for it for sure. It's like, oh, that shoulder's feeling a little cranky. You're like, that'll buff out. You modify something. You're like, that'll fucking buff out for sure. That's just that's a superficial scratch. And you can only, and maybe they do, like, obviously in my job, I do see that a lot. I just modify people's technique and modify their training. And I'm like, keep training. And they come back in, they're like, man, my shoulder's feeling better. I'm like, yeah, well, we got away from the most offensive action for it, and we kept you training. And that's the most important part. But if it is like a real injury and you're coming back from something, like, you can't out hide that if you're not recovering. So there's a big part of that. Like the strongest I ever got to was definitely when I was training. Dude, I was training 2.5 times a week, because I was between 2 and 3 times a week consistently. It was when I was waiting for shoulder surgery, when I blew my shoulder up. And man, that's the only time I ever pulled over 500 pounds. It's like my back was strong. Everything was so strong. And I was like, wonder why this is. Like, I've tried to do this before and didn't work. And I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm only training like 2 to 3 times a week. Yeah. Like, fuck. Like, it was straight up recovery. It's like the things I've been talking about for years. I was like, oh yeah, no, I actually believe them. I'm like, man, it's so dumb. But it really is like, it truly is recovery when we get older. And that's nutrition, that's hydration. And there's just only so many boxes you can check. So again, say you're setting up for the season and you're like, man, yeah, like I trained pretty hard last year. I got a couple injuries, but I was pretty good. And you're like, that's pretty dumb. I'm feeling pretty good. And you're like, my fitness was like not too bad. And you're like, man, but like I'm still like kind of fat and I'm like not feeling great about it. And like, why didn't this work? It's going to be your diet, right?
Yeah.
So now if you've got like a pretty consistent, like, and you want to change that, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just like, you've got a pretty consistent setup. And now you're like, I'm pretty good with the gym. I'm pretty good with my fitness. That's all dialed in. Look at your nutrition. Like, regardless of having a six pack or not, like it's going to help your recovery when you're actually eating properly, right? So all of these things end up mattering, but you can't, unless you've just got unlimited resources and time, which time is just seemingly slipping away. It's so easy to just kind of run away with it. You've got to think about this not as a project for like this winter and just before this hunting season. You've got to think about dialing your shit in now, and then you've got to think about really kicking off and starting it next year, and then getting excited about training the year after that. And that's where getting excited about training like really is important. So having some plug and play pieces of like, I'm going to work on my strength. And yeah, it's going to feel a little different, but once you get strong, when you do like 5 sets of 5 and you're like completely smoked, that feels different. That's a neuromuscular fatigue that you do not get from that like bodybuilding style where you're like, oh, everything's pumped and I'm like burning everywhere. That's different, right? So again, having one gear that you train one way and one part that you train this way, and then you shift gears and you train this other way, your body will just thank you for that in the long run. And the more training you do, the stronger you get, the more robust you are, the more training options you have. Like if you're a 200-pound man and you can't bench press, like do the 50-pound dumbbells, you like for reps, you certainly can't do a push-up properly. So like if you can't even do a fucking push-up, like your training, I call it strength is the glass. Your glass is so tiny, right? As you get stronger, your glass gets bigger. And again, you don't have to deadlift 600 pounds, squat fight. Like that's not what we're talking about. We're having just base level strength. And that's what really starts to matter, because now training can actually be quite a bit more fun. You're like, oh, what's this kettlebell training all about? Like, I'm going to do a little bit of that. Or this next year, like I'm going to throw in some sandbag incorporation. That stuff looks kind of, miserable and cool at the same time, versus like, oh, I can't even bench the 50s. Like I probably can't even do a push-up, which means I can't even really do a burpee properly. So you're just like, you're really limited. And the only way to change that is to actually start training. You can't just wish that shit away. You've got to actually get to work, and you've got to work smarter, not harder, especially when you're, like I said, over the age of 35.
Well, and that's the thing too. If you're just getting into it and as you're older, you're not going to be able to do the same thing that you've been doing your whole life. It's just not. It's not going to work out. Like you can't.
No.
Physically,
yeah, and that's
like, it's hard. And like I would be surprised. Like I bet you there's a lot of guys out there that have a hard time doing push-ups.
For sure.
You know
I see them every week.
Yeah. Yeah. But and one other thing with, like, we're talking about diet, and I know guys aren't going to want to hear this, but like I pretty much stopped drinking. And that was a big thing too, with like inflammation and stuffing and like joint pain. And like, I wasn't a big drinker, but still like maybe a beer or 2 beer a day.
Yep.
The inflammation in my joints and stuff, and like even in my hands, stuff like that. It's almost gone away. And like just drinking more, like cut my coffee down to 2 cups a day. So I'll just have, 2 packets of This Is Coffee a day. And then, a lot of water, obviously, just because, I was never really a pop guy, but like just not craving that other stuff is helped a lot too. But yeah, nutrition, sleep, one thing is I find, because that was one thing I struggled with, because even like still is like, sleep to me is just such a waste of time. It's like such a
I've heard you say that before, and it makes me laugh. It for sure. Yeah.
When like, for me, like time is the biggest currency. Like you can make money, you could do all this stuff, but it's like you can't get time. You can never get time back, right? And it's like, as you get older, it's like, fuck, man, the days just seem to roll by faster. And when you have kids, and like, soon enough you're going to be there, and it's like, man, like I have no time, right? And then it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden like time gets so precious. So like that was one of the
Yeah.
biggest struggles I found with like was with sleep was like the reason I sacrificed sleep was because it just allowed me to do these other things while still committing to the obligations I had, which was like my
Yeah.
kids, home,
Yeah.
wife, being a dad, being a husband,
Yeah.
supporter, all that stuff, but still doing the things that I felt I wanted to do at the
Of
same
course.
time.
Of course, yeah. And where that starts to get really like frustrating, you've been living it here this past year or so, right? Is that what's even more frustrating than catching another hour of sleep is being injured because you're not recovering well enough. Like
Yeah.
you can only do that so many times where you look in the mirror and you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like this is insane. Like I have to get better at this. And of course, you've got to look at all of it, right? You're like, well, more inflammation, I do have. And like most of the time, like when we've, last year when we've had like a couple of beers, usually drink like a lighter beer and stuff. But a lot of guys drink like a pretty heavy IPA. You're looking at 7.5% for a
Well, like
beer.
my fucking
And
brother drinks a 15 pack a day and he's like, "Oh, my fucking joints are always sore." Well, no shit,
dude,
man.
no
Like fuck.
shit. That's an insane amount. And I mean, like I'm literally standing in my office where I have like 80 bottles of whiskey behind me in a fucking wine cellar. Like, don't know, I enjoy it, right? But the reason that there's that many there is that I don't drink it that often,
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's a tough go. But when
Well,
you got to start,
there's a difference between having a drink once in a while
yeah,
and
for
like
sure,
just habitual where it's like and like, hey man, I was there. I used to drink a case of beer a day. Like I would
yeah,
work hard,
yeah, and then
and then I'd go play
reward
hockey.
yourself, yeah,
Yeah, and then I go play hockey, and then we'd sit around and drink a case of beer after, or like
yeah,
go work out after, right? And then I
yeah,
go drink. Like I did it. I was young, and like fuck, man. When I was young, I drank a lot more than that, right?
oh
I
yeah,
wake up, and then you're in like you see in
for sure,
bars and white walls, and you're like, fuck, I did
yeah,
something I
oh
wasn't
no,
supposed to. Yeah. So like,
yeah,
yeah, like I'm not. We're not judging anyone or anything, but we're just saying like if you want to do these things, and that's the thing, and that comes down to like setting realistic goals and like being clear about your goals and being honest, right?
yep,
And like that is a like it's hard for me, it's hard for everybody. It's like being honest with who you are and like what you're capable of, and like you know when you go through hard things in life and like you always think you're Superman, right? You think, oh fuck, I've been through this, I can go through that. But as you get older, it's like, well, you're gonna have to start being more realistic and like, man, sleep. That was one thing for me I learned was like, okay, like as much as I
yeah,
hate sleeping, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to, this is where I'm gonna have to, like, if I want to do this, I'm gonna have to learn to do this as
yeah,
well. Like, and
yeah,
make this a big part of my training. And that's how I kind of approach it was like, this is just another stage of my training is like,
without a doubt.
I need
It,
to I need to do this. So I'm gonna have to restructure my workouts. And I made it happen. I made it possible. Like I said, I do higher intensity workouts, shorter and just twice a day. And I can still fit
yep,
in, like I can fit in a 45-minute workout. No
yep,
problem when my kids are doing homework, right?
yep,
But you just have to be really like put the phone down and just go for it. Right.
right,
And just get it
yeah,
done. Right. And
yeah,
then make the Instagram reel after or something like that.
yep, yeah,
So
exactly, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, and it's totally doable. But yeah, man, sleep. I found sleep is like it's the it's huge. It's a lot bigger
I
than
think
still I like to admit.
I think one of the things too, right, is like you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Like you've already been doing most of the things pretty well except sleep. So sleep's one of your bigger hurdles, and that's going to have the biggest effect because you were bad at it
Yeah.
versus someone else who's bad at eating, drinking, sleep, like all,
Mhm.
and maybe you're training hard, but you're like, I'm just not seeing, and I'm sore all the time. I'm not recovering.
Yeah.
All I would usually try and tell those people is like, you can do anything for 30 days. Really, you can do anything for 30 days. And if someone just like you can, there's a lot of different ways to eat out there, and I don't want to get into that. One of the things I do probably appreciate the most is just like the carnivore diet, like literally eat 2 big steaks a day and a little bit of fruit and cut everything else out. You're just drinking water, maybe a cup of black coffee in the morning. But like that's
Just
it
coffee.
for 30 days. 30 days, do it. And anybody who I've gotten through the clinic or like people who reached out and they've done that, they're like, that 28-year knee pain is fucking gone. And they're like, I haven't changed anything. I'm like, so do you think there was anything wrong with your knee, or is it just chronically inflamed? So for someone like yourself, like with your hands and elbows, it's like because you're work with brick all the time and you've beaten the shit out of your hands and elbows and shoulders with work, like, and they're constantly sore. And I'm like, well, and maybe this is now, I'm not maybe specifically talking about you. It's like, maybe your brother or something like that. It's like, well, you're drinking 12 beers a day, or like maybe not a day, but you're drinking like 4 one day and 16 the next and 14 next. So it averages out to too many beers. And I'm like, just
I
stop
wasn't
that.
kidding when I said 12, 15 a beer, and like probably more than that. I'm not even kidding. Like that's
Fair enough. Fair enough.
it's like
So
fuck,
like,
man.
yeah.
At least
So
switch
if
to
he's
light beer.
at least, so if you drink that much and you just, kind of like slow that way down or cut that out, right? Well, when you come off benzos of booze, it can be really hard on you. So like maybe you just slow it way down and you show yourself that your arms start to change, your hands start to change. You realize that that's not like real pain and real damage. That's really just like your own fucking life choices that are really getting in your way of succeeding in whatever way you want to. So,
Yeah.
but people do like to use that stuff as a crutch and an excuse, I think, a lot as well, with just like, they're like, oh, I can't, my hand, I can't with the hand thing. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, I guess, yeah, fair enough. Can't go to the gym because of my wrist. It's been sore for 30 years. And you're like, okay, like there's a lot of other things you can do, and you can like kind of fix up your sleep and your diet. And people are like, yeah, no, it's the wrist.
Well,
It's
and
the wrist.
unfortunately, a lot of people just use that as an excuse. And I know a lot of people like I like daily I meet, they're like, oh no, I work all day. I don't
I
don't
don't
want
have
to
time.
work out. I don't have time, or like my job's enough. And you see them and they're swinging a hammer and they got 40 extra pounds of weight on their front end and their
Yeah.
back's sore.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
No wonder.
yeah, no wonder you're eating a bag of Doritos for lunchtime, drinking 3 Pepsis,
Yeah.
and like
Again.
you're not exercising, and like yeah, it sucks, but it's only going to suck
Yeah.
for so long, and then it's going to get a lot better. You just have to be clear on what, like, don't sit here and bitch about your back sore if you're not going to do anything about it. That's
Right.
it.
And
Like,
don't think it's unfixable when you're already, now if you're doing a majority of the things very well and you have these problems, that's when it's time to really try and see like a professional, or you just see a professional in the beginning too, and they can at least tell you these things to start helping you fix yourself. But really, like,
I think it's important to see you guys all the time, and that's why, like,
totally,
I see Corey twice a month, whether
Yeah.
whether things are
you
going
need
good or
to or
bad.
not. Yeah.
And
Don't
like
wait.
when Yankee was
Yeah.
on, we were talking about this and like the importance of that of that,
Yeah.
and like just seeking out a professional and like just tell them what you're like. Sometimes I'll go in there, nothing's bugging me, and I'll go in and talk to Corey, and we'll just talk about my training and diet and stuff. And he's like, well, you know what? Maybe you should talk to Mike a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about your something in your nutrition, or if and just be
Sure.
honest with him. Tell him anything that's bugging you. Talk
Yep.
to you guys. Be like, well, when I'm doing, I've been working out, but I have a lot of ankle pain. Okay, well, like, don't just keep doing it, because all that's going to lead
Right.
to is like long-term ankle pain, and then you're not going to be able to do anything at all. And like, I've been down
Or-
that road where you're like, fuck
Or
it, I'll just
biomechanically, you're now changing the way you walk, get out of bed, get off the toilet, work out, run, all those things. And you're like, I wonder why my hip's really bugging me, or my knee,
Yeah.
or my back.
Yeah.
Or you're
Yeah.
like, well, my wrist is really sore. So I kind of don't turn things a certain way. And you're like, why the fuck's my elbow super swollen? You're like, man, how long you been dealing with that? Guys are like, about 8 years. You're like, holy shit. Like
Yeah.
just come in and see somebody, like,
Yeah, exactly. And like, so I started working with a running coach, and I don't
Yeah,
know if I
sweet.
told you or not, but we started taking slow motion videos of like my strike and stuff when I was running.
Yeah.
And it was fucked. Like, and that's
Yeah.
where we figured out a lot of like, and the thing is, like, I got shitty feet. I got really, really like the craziest high arches you'll ever see in your life. And like, I
Yeah.
suffer from bad plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
And, insoles and stuff like that, like custom orthotics and stuff like that.
Yep.
Make a big difference. And like, but
Yep.
you have to reach out and ask for help. You have to see you
Right.
guys and understand it. And like,
Right.
we figured out a lot of my hip pain was from the way I was striking when it like that. And that's what
100%.
caused it too. When I started running, like, how it was before, I'd run a bit and then I couldn't run for a couple days, and I'd run
Yeah.
a bit, like with my knee, it was like, I'd be good.
Yeah.
And then my knee would swell up and I couldn't run till it was done.
Yeah.
But when it was all fixed, I started running all the time. But the problem was, it wasn't what I was doing as much as how I was doing it. I had developed a really bad stroke on my right side from compensating for my left knee.
Yep.
And that compounded, and just like the constant of doing that and then doing it really hard and like not paying attention to like I'm having a little bit of pain, no sleep, and like not asking for help when I was like, oh, it's starting to bug
Right.
me a bit. Fuck it, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
for another run. And that's exactly what I did. It started to hurt, so I was
Yeah.
like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna run it out.
Right.
And then it was
Yeah.
like that one morning I couldn't get out of bed, and I was like, well, what the fuck?
What happened here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did this come about? You're like, well, all the other runs I've been feeling this actually. So
Yeah.
there's so much of that, man, that goes around that's like you can't use it as an excuse. See a professional, and then if you see a good professional, what they're going to do is they're going to figure out a way to lateralize your training, right? Like, like I used to work with some people, and I mean, I know Yankee used to do this too back in the day. Like, oh, they're a super high level road runner, right? And you're like, oh, good, but they're having some they're having some foot pain, they're having some knee pain. Well, cool. Do you have any like technical trails around? Yep. Cool. I want you to go run on those. Are you having any pain when you do that? No. That means that you're not active enough in your lower leg biomechanics, most likely. So I put you on a technical trail. And now your stride's different. You're side to side. You're using more muscle groups. Sure, you're not running as fast, but you're still running. And we can keep you training that way until we can keep you. We can figure out like, oh yeah, like you've got whatever. You've got some, some sort of ailment that I could say in the foot, lower leg. And you're like, nice. So we're going to do the rehab to work on that. I want you to keep trail running. And then as we kind of like add in some road running again, we can see how it's going to be. And like, that's the smart way to train around these things. It's not to stop training. It's to figure out a way to train the similar, but without recreating that pain. So like for you, I'd be like, man, your hip. So if you came to you told me about your hip like right away, say, I'd be like, okay, interesting. Well, I want to keep you training. We've got this like gait mechanics stuff we need to work on. We need to work on your foot, like all of these things. We're like, well, why don't we just get you kind of hiking around Knox Mountain a little bit? Or why don't we get you hiking a little bit differently? No, I know it's not running, but it's still going to be close enough where you can still work that again, that maybe that zone 2 cardio, maybe you could kind of push it on the hills a little bit to hit that zone 3, and we can keep you running. We can keep you training while we figure out the other shit versus a full fucking all 4 wheels fall off the bus and you can't get out of bed one morning. And it's like, well, what do I do now? And it's like, I don't know, man, go back behind the woodshed and just off yourself. Like it's too late.
I don't know. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Yeah. It seems like now you really have to rest. So
Yeah,
anyways.
well, and that's it. And but I mean, and like I said before, when, it's my own fault, right? And it's just, but that's just my mentality. It's just like, well, fuck it. Let's just go. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. And I mean,
go till it burns.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. For sure. Yeah. It'd be always funny to put a guy like you in like a full powerlifting program for like 4 months where you're like limited to like, 4 reps max and you're taking 3 to 4 minutes of rest between sets. I think you'd fucking go completely insane. Like,
yeah. Well, and
like,
that's the thing is like a lot of the fitness, like a lot of like my fitness journey is to help me mentally, right? Like, and I said, I don't have any other. I mean, obviously, I love hunting and stuff, and I love shooting my bow. But I mean, I just feel better. Like I said before, I feel mentally, I feel better. I feel like physically, I feel better. And it's for me, it's like I have to do it, and it's like when you make it such a big part of your life, it's like if you can't do it, the hardest thing, like with my hip injury, is like when you set a goal, like you want to do something. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like I'm not the kind of guy that you can just say, no, you can't do it. Because if you said no, I can't fucking do it, I'll be like, yeah, watch this, motherfucker.
Watch this. I'm gonna do it twice. Just to spite you.
But then
you get to one for you.
You get to the point, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you physically cannot do this now because you're a fucking retard and you weren't listening to, like, you blew it, right? And then that is like, it's hard. And it's funny, like Mike Edgehouse, I had a conversation with him today. I don't know if you know him from Cut Right. Totally. He was doing the same thing. He was training really hard, and he had an injury, and he's like, he texted me this morning. He's like, man, I pulled a Kev toy. I fucking was going too hard. I wasn't listening, and I was like, well, there you go, lesson learned, right?
Yeah,
like
totally. Again, right? It's just, I think too, what I end up seeing with like tough bastards like yourself and other guys that I know is a lot of life they've had to overcome an external obstacle, like I need to land this many clients, or I need to do this job in this amount of time, or I need to get up this, you know what I mean? There's these external forces that you need to overcome. But once all of a sudden the internal force of your body starts to kind of fail and you start to question, like, man, it's a new realm of scary. You're like,
Yeah.
I've never overly failed. Like, I'm sure I fail elk hunting every fucking year, but but I say I'm out there for the journey and that's what matters, Kev. But no,
Yeah.
but
Well,
like
it's
realistically,
getting up. Like there's like we all fail. Like we all fail
sure.
more than we achieve. And like,
But
but
when
we
you
have the ability
can't,
to get up. But when you
but when you
physically
can't,
you
yeah,
can't do it, it's
you
like
can't.
that's what I was
Your
saying. You
body's
can't.
like,
No.
I
Your body's
will.
like, no.
No.
It's just like that's what it was. It's like the one morning, and the funny thing is like that's almost exactly what happened. It was like no, because it was like if I would have been able to walk, I would have just said fuck it and go for a run because I was training
Right.
for that race, and I would have
That's
just
right.
kept doing it. But then one day it
Yeah.
was like no, it couldn't move, and I was like, what the fuck? I felt
What's
like I
going
was
on
like
here?
paralyzed on the one
Yeah.
side. I was like, I was
Totally.
kind of nervous. I was like, oh shit, like what the fuck happened? Like, did I hurt my back?
Yeah.
Did I
Yeah.
hurt this? And like it was funny because my hip didn't hurt. It just wouldn't move. Nothing
Right.
moved. It just locked
Yeah.
up. And it was like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, this is fucked. And then from then it was like, then it was just like,
Yeah.
like it just, from then on, it was like mentally, I knew something was wrong. And then it's like, I think I called you a day later and like I
Yeah.
got into like see some specialists right away. And then
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, well, you're fucked now. Like now you
Yeah.
got, you ruptured
Now
this
you're
and now you're
mandatory
right
rest.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, mandatory rest. And then it's like,
Yeah.
but you look at it and it's like, yeah, that sucked at the time, but I'm glad it happened because like when you go through these things now, I've learned
Sure.
the importance of sleep, rest, and recovery. And like just to like listen to your body, trust you guys. And like we were talking, texting back and forth, through quite a bit we
Yeah.
do. And I was telling you, I was like, man, I've really learned to like trust the people helping you and the people who are surrounding you and trusting the fact that, hey, man, yes, it's your body, but they know more about this shit than you. They literally know
Right.
more about your body than you do. So there's just like,
Right. I
they're
think
trying to
too,
help you.
yeah. I think too, like there's always this like if you like if you had the Olympics like that year, we're gonna do like the pain almost doesn't matter. Like we're gonna figure out a way to get you going. But that's not the case for us normal human beings. You and I are like, okay, cool. Like I got to take a back seat. I got to take a bit of a smack here. I can't do this race this year, but really what we got to think about is like the next year and the year after that versus maybe this like semi-permanent damage I'm doing to my hip that like I don't want to do this again. And the next time you go to do that, so you really need people in your corner that you're like that can just give you that hard honest truth and you have to be willing to take it as well, being like you've got to shut this down. You've got to push that goal back another year and we can go from there. I remember I had this client who came in to see me years ago and she couldn't run more than 500 meters without her knees hurting. And she was kind of heavy and she used to be heavy and lost a lot of weight. She was a pretty good cyclist and she wanted to do her Ironman. And it was like, I think she saw me in like April and she couldn't run more than like 500 meters without her knees being in excruciating pain. And her Ironman was in like fucking August. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're not going to make it. Like, you're not going to, there's zero chance that you're going to make it. This is silly. And if you do make it, I'm worried you're going to do like irreparable damage. And so like, she actually didn't see me anymore. And she was like, this guy's fucking telling me what I don't want to hear.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay.
She wanted to come to you with reassurance and like basically just tell her what you wanted to hear. But
and I'm like, listen, we can lay out a plan for next year. You can do it. Well, that's not what I want to do. I'm like, okay. I'm like, we can see, but ultimately, this is, in my opinion, a poor idea. And, we started to kind of dig. And then again, she didn't see me after that. And then, like, I think it was like 8 months later, or whatever the race ended up being, like, sure enough, man, she towed that starting line. And I mean, she didn't even make it 500 meters, like, just that sucks, right? Like, that's a full failure where you're like you needed somebody around.
Yeah. And like I was saying, like that's where it comes down to like when you're building a workout strategy is to trust the people who are helping you and not and be honest with yourself. And like when there's a difference. Like for me, it's always like, is that pain? Is it okay? Or should I just keep going? And this is what the thing I struggle with now is like because like there's a difference between like good pain and like pain where you should just be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this today. Maybe I should do something else or focus on something else
Right.
today. And that's where I really struggle is like, is this one of those pains or is this pain where I can just say fuck it and keep going? And like
Yeah.
before, like when I was working with my running coach and stuff, and like I'd have a little bit of residual knee pain, but it would go away after a while, right? And it was just once my
Yeah.
muscles, once everything loosened up, and like a lot of it had to do with like tight hamstrings and stuff, and like not, real
Sure.
tight calves and shit like that. But once they loosened up, it was fine, right? And so I'm always like, now I'm always like, well, I'll go a little bit further. And if it's still bugging me, I'll stop. But then it's like I get a little bit further. I'm like, okay, just go a little bit further. And it, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's what I'm scared of is like, okay, go a little bit further. And then go a little bit further. And it's like, well, where the fuck, like further? I can keep pushing this further. Fucking, I can keep throwing that ball down the road and chasing it. But
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
no, I got to stop because this isn't, something's not feeling right now. No, let's switch for a week and let's focus on something else. Right.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
one
And
thing I really struggle.
it's having people in your corner too that you
Yeah.
like, that can give you those options. It's also too building a repertoire long enough that you build these experiences. You're like, oh, I know what this feels like. And then you're like, oh, cool. I always think too, like, so someone's training and they feel knee pain. And like, this is like, people can use this who listen to this podcast, right? Like you're training and you feel knee pain and you're like, all right, and you just take a second and you end up like just doing a 30 seconds of foam rolling and you go back and do that exercise and it feels better. That's not detrimental pain. That's just superficial tightness that you need to get taken care of. Can't fucking ignore this shit, but it's superficial pain that you can take care of.
Yeah.
Versus if you get down, you do
those things. So like you're working through those things. Is it better to stop? Like, can you get injured from that pain or will it just go away? Like, that's what I started. Like the roller, like I love that roller now. I'm fucking addicted to that thing. Those things, like the hard balls and stuff Corey had. I mean, doing this like, I'll literally like put the kids to bed and I'll go downstairs and I'll use that thing for like half an hour and I'll just like roll everything out and it's like, oh man, it feels like that's the best thing ever.
And then there's two, like there's probably like within that, like there's 30 minutes of you just recovering, like nothing to do with the rolling, but like I think a lot of people that go to like a very chill yoga class, it's less about the yoga and it's more about the fact that you're just fucking relaxing for an hour,
right?
Like way more to do with that. Shut the world out for an hour, right? So like for you, you're like on that roll and you're like, oh man, this feels good, but you're just focused, you're just recovering. You're not training, you're not working, you're not emailing, you're not, whatever, right? So there's a big portion of that that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, because what ends up happening, so say you just use this knee pain person, right? So you do that and you're like, oh, my knee's kind of sore. You finish the set and you're like, it's lunges, say, and you finish the set and you're like, oh, fuck, my knee hurts. And then you maybe like, do a 30-second foam roll in between sets. You go back, do it, and you're like, oh, it doesn't hurt. You should get that taken care of. You should either roll it, you should see a professional, you should do something. Pain, I usually say you should see a professional for. A little bit of discomfort, you can kind of work through that. But the problem is if you don't and you just try and work through it, what'll end up happening is your body's not stupid. It's going to be like, I don't like to use that way. So you can like start to change how your ankle sits on the ground. You can start to kind of like cock your hips a little funny. You can sit your hip back further instead of flex your knee. You can do all sorts of different things to avoid that pain. And you're like, nice. It doesn't hurt anymore. And then 6 months later, 2 weeks later, 5 years later, you now have an ingrained pattern from that little simple knee pain you could have taken care of versus like now we're trying to undo years of like a pattern that is now hammered home, chiseled as stone, right? So it's just so much easier to deal with that shit right away. And I always think try something very superficial, very nominal first. Like you can easily just look this shit up on Instagram, YouTube, message me anytime you want. And you're like, hey, I got this, try this, and then redo it. Oh, it feels a lot better. Sweet. Keep doing that after your workout, before your workout. Commit to that shit for 2 weeks. That should at least help. If it helps, it goes away and it comes back. There's probably a biomechanical problem. You got to see somebody about it. We can work on that too. But you got to do something. Otherwise, pain will kind of shape your movement. And it's not, let me tell you now, it's not going to fucking shape it positively. So,
what is it? I was going to ask you, what is it about? So like I started doing incline treadmill backwards, like
backwards.
That step.
Yeah.
Press.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but man, that like if you have any knee pain or if you have any pain, the hip pain, that shit is just like you walk it off. You literally
So
walk it off. It's amazing.
in 2000 and 2000, fuck, it could have been 2010 or 11, 10 or 11. I was at this kind of conference thing, and Stu McGill was speaking, and I was lucky I got to go and have, a little hangout with Stu McGill afterwards, and it was cool. Who's like one of the foremost experts on back pain in the world.
Okay.
And he's his book Back Mechanic, he's got a couple good podcasts out there and stuff. Now, I don't agree with all that he says. He's kind of an anti-back flexion guy, but not really, but like, anyways, that's a long story that I won't want to get it, we don't have time to get into. But I remember we were talking about something else, and I just remember Stu saying, and he's like this, he's a professor at Waterloo, and he was like, anyone with knee pain, and I don't know where he got this from and where originally it came from. Probably the Russians is usually where most good stuff ends up coming from. If you just turn a treadmill up to its highest incline and you just get somebody to walk backwards for 20 minutes, it'll fix most of what they're dealing with. And I think that was a bit of a Charles Poliquin thing too, who's like a RIP to Charles, but he was a godfather in this like weightlifting industry and did a lot of what people now know as the knees over toes guy. A lot of this stuff was like, he has packaged it very well, and and I'm all for it, just so we're all clear. But he got pieces of these things from other people, and he's a smart guy himself. I'm not saying that, but that's where I first got that. And I remember being like, huh, that's interesting. And I remember I went and did it, and I've never had such a quad pump in my life. And the reason that it works so well is because without knowing it, you are actually flexing your knee without really flexing your hip instead. So like if you just, and I can kind of dole this out to people right now. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? You can go stand in front of a wall, and I want you to put your right foot forward, and I want you to put your toe maybe about 4 inches in front of the wall. And all I want you to do is just make, without pushing your bum backwards, I want you to push your knee into the wall. And if you're like, I can't do that, or I don't like to do that, that is knee flexion without your hip flexing. So you can do that test and be like, well, you can look at his ankle mobility and all that stuff. But really what you're looking at is, can my knee go forward without my hip also flexing that much? And when you're on a treadmill going backwards, you're essentially just doing that repetitively, and you're constantly loading the tendons in a knee flexion pattern that's very low load. It's challenging because it's backwards, and because you're in a kind of a quarter squat all the time, your legs get sore, so you feel like you're doing something. Versus if I just got you to do a 2-inch step down for 100 reps, you'd be like, this is, or not even, right? Like if you're walking for 10 minutes, you're probably putting 500 steps in backwards. I'm going to be like, hey, Kev, do 250 2-inch step downs. You'd be like, get fucked, man. That's boring. But somehow you can walk backwards on a treadmill. No problem. I do it like literally in season.
I love it. Well,
I
we
walk
started
backwards,
doing that
usually uphill, but
yeah, we started doing that, and it's really working on like my gait.
Yeah.
Right.
Making people walk backwards, making people run backwards, making people run sideways is a different way to break out of the confines of your own motor pattern. Like it's, if you do that test and you're like, I can't flex my knee forward into the wall without my bum going backwards like a lot, or me dropping levels like squatting, then backwards walking on a treadmill is a very good idea for you. Like very good.
Yeah. I was telling my wife about it. I'm like, you should do this. And she's like, that's stupid. Why would I do that? I'm like, well, just do it. Dude, she's like, after 2 minutes, she's like, my thighs are burning. I'm like, I told you.
Yes. Dude, I have a solid story here. So like people who come and see me, like I've given this shit to people all the time. They either have a treadmill or they go to a gym and they do it there, which isn't as weird. Or if they have like a plate carrier at home, I get them to drag the plate backwards on the ground. Or if I'm like, where do you live? I'm like, so I had this couple patients there living up Dilworth, tons of hills there. And I was like, when you're out walking the dog, just go walk backwards for like 400 meters up that hill and just do it a couple times. Like as you're walking the dog, just walk backwards. Like you're doing it. You're going to look a little funny, but believe me, it's going to work. So whatever, this one patient's doing it and he's like, man, yeah, my knees are starting to really feel it. You feel a lot of difference. I'm like, fantastic. And I had this other patient come in and they were like, oh, I didn't I said, where do you live? I said, is it hilly where you live instead of where you live? And they were like, oh yeah, it's pretty hilly. I said, perfect. So they started walking backwards as well because similar knee injury, and we're going about it the same way. And so I was like, yeah, perfect. And then I had that other patient come back in. They're like, so I'm walking up like Vista, or I'm walking up like Selkirk or one of the mountain things in there backwards. And there's other guys walking up the hill backwards going the other way. And I'm like, oh yeah, nice. You doing that for your knees? He's like, yeah. He's like, some guy tell you to do that? He's just like, yeah. Did you see Matt at Vallejo? He's like, yeah, I see Matt at Vallejo. So they're like these two dudes walking backwards up a hill. It's pretty funny, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, yeah. That's one thing. Like, yeah, you definitely, I mean, I don't know. I don't really give a fuck if people are looking at you, but man, it sure
Totally.
works good. Yeah.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
so good.
and it
Or
is
it works
so
good.
simple. I try and get people just to start their warm up with that. Like
I do. I do it. So I do on my, like when I was doing, like when before I run, I do that. And then like this other work we're doing for like recovery stuff for
Yep.
my legs, I do it before then too. And like I just do it because it just like you do
Feels
it and
good.
like it feels good. And I'll do it for just to get the blood flowing, right? Maybe before
Yep.
like a workout, I'm like, oh, I'm
Yep.
kind of cold. I'll
Yep.
do that and just get the blood flowing. Man, it's just awesome.
Dude, for you, it'd be absolutely money for you is to get like a weight sled. It's just a piece of metal. You could probably you could probably fab it up. And then you literally just put the plates like you got in your machine outside there.
Mm-hmm.
You stack the plates on that and you walk backwards with a strap around your waist.
I've done that. My neighbor next door, he owns One Health.
Oh, sweet. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
no kidding.
He lets me go down there and he's got all that stuff too. So every once in a while I'll go down there and I'll hit that.
Your driveway, walking backwards up your driveway.
Yeah.
Put 20 minutes on the clock and you do this. This would be fun to do with the kid too. Like you go 20 minutes on the clock, you're going to walk backwards one way and then you're going to either pull the sled back down and then, or you can walk down, walk back up and then hit 10 pull-ups and you're just going to walk back, you know what I mean? Like back and forth. And that's where you can start to turn training into a pretty fun affair. Like it's work, but you're like, it's not too bad. You know, you can easily do that kind of shit.
Yeah. It's good too, because right now my son, Wyatt, he's 12 now. He's starting to get competitive, And it's like, fuck, I got to beat him all the time now because there's going to be one day where it's like, I'm going this way and he's going this way. So it's like,
you
guys I know it's coming. I know it's fucking coming one day.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Not today, buddy.
This is really all the training that we're trying to work on here. Is essentially just trying to make sure that
that's all I want. I just want
something.
So my kids can't beat me. That's all I'm working for.
That's freaking awesome, man. Yeah.
Well, dude, we're gonna wrap it up.
Sweet.
Thanks for coming on the show again. Always a pleasure talking to you. And I know
anytime,
a lot of guys wanted to hear all the great stuff you got. And just real quickly, shoot out where guys can get a hold of you. And I'm gonna put in the show notes all your coffee stuff. And I'm actually gonna throw a link up to your webpage on our webpage so guys can find it easily.
I appreciate you, man. That's awesome. So the coffee stuff, thisiscoffee.ca is the website. Thisiscoffee.ca is the Instagram. My personal account is Dr. Matt Ward DC on Instagram. And then I haven't put up much lately just because I've been just doing this coffee thing, but I try and put up more educational videos and all that stuff on rehab and training and all that on my Hard Yards Performance page. So it's obviously a lot of pages going on there, but if you find me on one, you can find me on all of them. And one of the things that I did too is I made my if you want it, my program, my speech, my slides and shit that I give out with my periodized training kind of on it. And then I plugged in a bunch of exercise examples and some aerobic and some conditioning stuff. I'll give that away to anybody for free. So if someone wants to just shoot me a note on the Instagram stuff, DM me. Then I'll just give me their email and I'll just send it to them as a PDF. And then you can follow along. You can at least understand what I'm saying there. Yeah. And I'm happy to give this information out for free. It's just, I feel the more people that are more jazzed up about training leads to better adventures in the backcountry and more healthy people overall. So I'm thrilled to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's great stuff that you put together there too. And for the listeners, look in the show notes, you'll find WARDO's information, his Instagram handle, and all that stuff. Okay, buddy. We'll chat again.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.
Gear up for the hunt and learn from the best with Deer and Deer Hunting Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Waypoint TV. Tune in every week for expert hunting tips and unforgettable moments in the field. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment.